Okay, here's a question that's been dividing the internet for like 6 years now. What's the most important video game of the last decade? Half the people say Breath of the Wild, the other half say Elden Ring, and then they just argue forever. And the thing that's wild about this argument is that they're actually not even arguing about the same thing. They're standing next to each other yelling about different games entirely. Because here's the truth. Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring both came out and said you can go anywhere and do anything. And then they defined what that means in completely opposite ways. Breath of the Wild said you can solve this puzzle however you want. Elden Ring said you can fight this boss in any order. One is about creative freedom. One is about player agency in combat. And the craziest part? Both are absolutely correct about what freedom means in their own context. If you put these two games side by side and actually understand what each one is doing, you're looking at the two most important lessons about open world design that have ever been taught. Let me explain why this matters.
Okay, 2017, March 3rd, the Nintendo Switch launches, and it launches with Breath of the Wild. And the gaming world explodes. Because for like 30 years, video games had been building open worlds in a very specific way. You had a big map, you had a quest marker telling you where to go, you followed that marker, you did the thing, you got loot, you progressed. That was the formula. Skyrim did it, GTA did it, The Witcher 3 did it. And Breath of the Wild showed up and said, what if we just didn't do any of that? There are no quest markers. There's barely a map. You're given a goal, go to Hyrule Castle and defeat Ganon, and then the game is like, figure it out yourself. And you can actually go straight to Hyrule Castle. Nothing stops you. You'll die because you're weak, but you could do it. That was revolutionary. That was Zelda basically rewriting the rulebook for what an open world could be. Then, 5 years later, in 2022, Elden Ring came out. And it had been in development for years while Breath of the Wild was out. And FromSoftware looked at what Zelda did and went, cool, but what if we applied this to a Dark Souls game? And the result was, it worked spectacularly, like 20 million copies sold level of worked. And here's what both games prove. Freedom in game design is not one thing, it's multiple things. And understanding the difference between these two types of freedom is understanding the future of game design.
Breath of the Wild is about creative problem solving. That's the core of everything. You're Link. You wake up in a cave. You don't remember anything. You're told to save the world from Calamity Ganon, and then you're released into Hyrule. And the game is basically like, there are shrines here, 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 and here. Complete them if you want. There's a main quest if you feel like it. There's literally like 100 side quests. Do whatever. And the genius, the absolute genius of Breath of the Wild is that every single obstacle can be solved in multiple ways. You need to cross a gap? You could go get a shield and surf down the hill. You could blow up wooden boxes and use them as stepping stones. You could find a camp and steal a flying machine. You could just find a different path. The game doesn't care. There's no correct way. There's just ways that work. Combat is the same way. You're fighting a Bokoblin camp. You could sneak in and take out archers silently. You could charge in and fight. You could light the grass on fire and burn them. You could pick up a metal object and let them electrocute themselves. You could build a rudimentary bomb launcher out of parts and just destroy them from a distance. The game is encouraging you to experiment. And the environmental interaction is insane. Every single object in the world can be interacted with. You can cut down trees, you can burn grass, you can freeze water, you can move metal objects with magnets. You can stasis an object, hit it repeatedly, and when stasis wears off, it flies across the map. The game is giving you tools, and you're supposed to figure out how to combine them creatively. The difficulty in Breath of the Wild is weird because it's not about combat mastery, it's about preparation and creativity. You can beat any boss at any time if you're creative enough. You might need to cook potions, you might need to bring certain weapons, you might need to approach from a specific angle, but you're not needing frame-perfect dodges. You're needing imagination. And here's the thing, Breath of the Wild trusts that you want to experiment. If you try something silly, the game doesn't punish you for lack of efficiency. It rewards you for trying. You find a chest. You might get a weapon or food or money. The game is saying exploration is the goal.
reward yourself. The world is designed so that you can see distant locations and go there. There's this constant visual incentive to explore. You see a tower on a mountain, you can climb it. There's a castle in the distance, you can go there. The game is a series of challenges to overcome with tools. And the story? The story is deliberately minimalist. You get 4 divine beasts, you free them, you gather these orbs, you fight Ganon. That's it. The game doesn't care about narrative. It cares about you having fun solving problems. That's the Breath of the Wild promise. Here are tools, here are obstacles. Figure out how to use one to overcome the other. We don't care how.
Elden Ring is about player agency in combat. It's a completely different type of freedom. You're the Tarnished. There's a big tree called the Elden Ring that's broken. Something, something grace, something, something. The story is deliberately vague, and the game doesn't care if you understand it. What matters is that you're in a world with bosses, and you can fight those bosses in whatever order you want. And that's radical from a FromSoftware game. Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 had bosses, but they were in a specific order. You had to fight boss 1 before you could access boss 2. Elden Ring said, no, here's a map, there are like 8 bosses scattered around. Fight them in whatever order you want. The genius of Elden Ring is that it doesn't nerf you for fighting bosses out of order. If you fight a high-level boss early, they don't suddenly become easier. You just die. That's on you. The game is not going to hold your hand, but the option is there. And the combat tools you have are insane. You can use magic to one-shot bosses from a distance. You can use melee weapons with special effects. You can use spirit summons to distract enemies while you attack. You can use bleed effects to destroy anything. You can use poison. You can use earthquakes. The game is giving you so many options to approach combat. But unlike Breath of the Wild, where the variety is about creative problem solving, Elden Ring's variety is about style. It's about finding the approach that works for your character. You're making build decisions. You're saying, I'm going to be a magic user, or I'm going to be a bleed user, or I'm going to be a strength build that just bonks things. And the difficulty is combat difficulty. It's not about figuring out the right puzzle. It's about reading your opponent, learning their patterns, knowing when to dodge, knowing when to attack. It's about mechanical mastery. The world is huge and there's a lot to explore, but exploration is secondary to combat. You're exploring to find better weapons, better spells, upgrade materials. You're exploring to find bosses. The world is a stage for combat, not a puzzle to solve. And the story? There's no story. There are NPCs that you can follow questlines for if you want to piece together the lore, but the game is not telling you a narrative. You're figuring it out or you're not, and both are valid. That's the Elden Ring promise. Here are tools and obstacles. Figure out which tool works for you, then master using it.
Let me give you specific examples of how these games approach obstacles completely differently. Breath of the Wild. You enter a shrine. There's a room with a gap you need to cross. On one side, there are blocks. On the other side, there's a door. In the middle, there's a metal box. You could push the blocks and use them as stepping stones. You could use magnets to move the metal box. You could use stasis and time a jump. You could freeze water and walk on ice. You could climb on the walls. You could use a shield to surf down. There are like 8 different solutions. All of them work. None of them are wrong. Breath of the Wild is saying, here's an obstacle. Use your imagination. Elden Ring. You're fighting a giant boss. It has a sword. You have a sword. It also has 5 different attacks and 3 different combos and will attack you relentlessly. Your options: learn to dodge, learn to parry, learn to backstab, use magic to interrupt it, use a spirit summon to distract it, use consumables to buff yourself, use certain weapons that are effective against it. Elden Ring is saying, here's an obstacle, master your tools. The difference is profound. Breath of the Wild rewards creativity. Elden Ring rewards practice. One is about thinking outside the box. One is about executing inside the box perfectly.
In Breath of the Wild, you see a mountain in the distance. You climb it. There might be a shrine at the top. There might be a Korok seed. There might be nothing. But you did it. The reward is the exploration itself. You're constantly seeing something in the distance and going, I wonder what's over there. The world is designed so that 95% of things you can see, you can reach. There's no invisible walls. There's no you need to progress the story to go here.
You want to climb that cliff? Climb it. You want to cross that lake? Cross it. The game is trusting you to navigate. And the rewards for exploration are meaningful but not critical. You find weapons, you find food, you find rupees. None of this is necessary. You can beat the game with the starter weapons, but exploring makes you stronger, and that feels good. In Elden Ring's exploration, you see a castle in the distance. You go toward it. On the way, you encounter a boss that kills you in 2 hits. You die. You come back and try a different route. Maybe you find a cave. Maybe you find an underground area. Maybe you find a secret shortcut. You gradually piece together how to navigate the world through trial and error. The rewards for exploration are semi-critical. You're looking for upgrade materials, spells, weapons that fit your build. You need these things to be competitive. A fully upgraded magic user is playing a completely different game than an unupgraded one. Exploration is necessary for progression, not optional. And the world has invisible walls in the form of difficulty. You can go anywhere, but you might not survive going there. The game trusts you to read the room and figure out whether you're ready. One is about, wow, I found this cool thing. The other is about, wow, I survived getting this cool thing.
So here's my actual question. Which one are you? Are you someone who wants to explore and experiment? Someone who gets joy from finding creative solutions? Someone who likes having their hand held less and their options more? Someone who wants to feel clever? Then Breath of the Wild is your game. It's the most creatively liberating experience you can have. Or are you someone who wants to master a system? Someone who gets joy from practice and perfection? Someone who likes being challenged and overcoming that challenge through sheer skill and repetition? Someone who wants to feel powerful through mastery? Then Elden Ring is your game. It's the most rewarding experience you can have. And here's the beautiful part. Both games are masterpieces. Both changed the industry. Both are still relevant in 2026. And both will give you hundreds of hours of incredible content. If you've played both, let me know in the comments which philosophy you prefer. And if you haven't played Breath of the Wild, please tell me why you hate Joy, because that game is an absolute masterpiece that's only gotten better with time. Thanks for watching. Next video, we're diving into something that's going to completely reshape how you think about game design, so subscribe right now because you do not want to miss that.